Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So it is not just the blue line. It's not just the forwards. This team needs a lot of help in a lot of different regards. In the first segment, I spoke about that they need help in goal scoring. In this segment, I'm going to talk about the blue line, as I think a lot of different positions need to be addressed. This summer, the blue line is one of those. And I think that there is options internally, but ultimately I think the Capitals will have to go outside of the organization to obtain a player that's going to be next level for this team. And one of those players is Brandon Montour, another player that should be familiar if you are watching the playoffs. He would be a notable upgrade on the blue line. I really do believe it. Brandon Montour has had a career path similar to his teammate Reinhart, having played for multiple teams before finding success with reigning Eastern Conference champions. Like Reinhart, Montour entered the current season without protection or a secure contract. However, there are indications that both parties are open to continuing their working relationship. And I know that the Florida Panthers, especially if they find a way to make it to the next round or win a Stanley Cup, they are going to try to retain as many players as they possibly can, of course. But like I talked about with Reinhart, it's not going to be easy, as their agent knows that, wow, my player's value has gone up quite a bit. Montour's performance in the 22-23 season was exceptional, with an unexpected 16 goals and 73 points, marking a significant career achievement. Despite this, though, remarkable performance, General Manager Zito chose to exercise caution in evaluating Montour's performance and did not rush to secure his contract until July 1st, when his value will hit its peak. Instead, the Florida front office opted for patience, observing Montour's recovery from off-season surgery. So I think that ultimately what is this about? This is about Zito taking the posture of, is this Montour being good in a vacuum? Let's see what he does through the duration of the playoffs. How is he going to... Is that injury going to be exacerbated? Is that going to be something that's going to rear its ugly head? I think it's a wait and see approach. I understand that. And I understand that would be a risk for a team like the Capitals to obtain someone like that. But for a player like Brandon Montour, I'm going to go ahead and say it's worth the risk. Although Montour's performance in the current season did not reach the same heights as the previous one, he has remained a consistent contributor, tallying 8 goals and 25 assists in 66 games. His resilience and solid performance in the 23 postseason further underscore his value to the team. Again, it's up and down. You cannot achieve highs every year. We're talking about what he did in 22-23 with 16 goals and 73 points. And, he is a blue liner. And, you take a look at it. Sometimes those guys don't necessarily chip in and get as many goals as a forward. We get that, even though you take a look at the Capitals blue line, oftentimes they do get involved in goal scoring, that if we could have a really sound defenseman, I think that would be worth it. Furthermore, the scarcity of puck-moving right-shot defensemen in their prime enhances Montour's market value, and is expected that he will seek a higher figure in contract negotiations. While GM Zito prioritized securing another pending UFA defenseman, Forsling, signing him to an 8-year extension with a $5.75 million cap hit. The negotiations with Montour are anticipated to reflect his significant contributions to this team. So you take about, people automatically are going to ask, Dan, who's going to come out to, accommodate something like that? As we know, John Carlson is a big piece, and you take a look at Martin Feravari is a piece of the future. Alex Alexiev, I would also say, is a part of the future. I could see the Capitals moving on from TVR and or Jensen. We've seen the bumpy ride for both of those players. And am I going to say that Brandon Montour is going to be an upgrade over those two players? Absolutely. So, oftentimes people will say, well, that player's not going to come here for this or that reason. You're going to have to move players out to accommodate that. So if the Capitals had to move out TVR or Jensen to acquire and have a guy on the roster like Brandon Montour, guess what? I would go ahead and sign off on that. Regarding Montour's figure and future with the team, General Manager Zito expressed his desire to maintain the team's core while respecting the individual decisions of the players on March 8th. Again, we're talking about then. This approach demonstrates the team's commitment to fostering a positive working relationship with its players while ensuring the long-term success of the organization. It will be a tall order for Zito to try to get all of those players to come back. Even if they don't win a Stanley Cup, it's going to be most difficult to do that. And talking about how Zito prioritized Forsling over him, there's the possibility that a guy like Montour could be on the move. And it's an intriguing thought. And I think that, the Capitals would be better with a player like Montour on this team. Is that something that is actuality? I don't know, but that is what I'm going to be doing and talking about through these summer months up until July 1st, I guess, is the possibilities of how this team can get better. Again, we like to talk about relying on this team getting better internally and looking at on the blue line. There are other internal options. Alex Alexiev, I think, with Joel Edmondson, has moved out and solidified his spot on this team. You take a look at players like Vinny Iorio and Lucas Johansson, those kind of players that potentially, ostensibly, are going to make this team better. Is Vinny Iorio ever going to be as good as Brandon Montour? Is Lucas Johansson, with his multiple different opportunities on the big team, is he ever going to find sure footing with the Capitals? Those are all the things that we need to question. And how are those things going to be rectified? We saw when the Capitals signed Gustafsson a couple of years ago, what that meant for the Capitals and how they've had other options. I do think that, right now the onus and a lot of the pressure goes on John Carlson and Martin Faravari. And that's not really fair to either one of those players. I think that they need more capable blue liners that can step up and play a big role. And I think the Capitals would be exponentially better with a player like Brandon Montour on the roster. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we do know that the Capitals struggled with consistency with the centers, with Backstrom stepping away from hockey and Evgeny Kuznetsov getting dealt out to the Hurricanes. They need consistency, and they need that top-tier, upper echelon center. Is Elias Lindholm that center for the Capitals? I'll discuss straight ahead.